My name is Clara Hensley, and I'll never forget the sound of silence that filled my backyard that afternoon. The silence of absence. Balloons swayed against the wind, the cake candles burned halfway down, and my little girl, Leela, kept glancing at the gate every few minutes, her bright eyes searching for faces that never came. It was her 7th birthday, the first one since her father passed away in a construction accident last spring. I wanted it to be special. I'd saved for weeks, baking the cake myself, stringing fairy lights around the garden, and inviting everyone in my family, my parents, my 2 brothers, my sister-in-law, and even my aunt who never liked me much. Everyone had said they'd come. Everyone. But as the minutes stretched into hours, not one of them showed up. Leela tried to smile when I handed her the knife to cut the cake. "Maybe they're just late, Mama," she said softly. I forced a laugh. "Yeah, maybe they're caught in traffic." But there was no traffic on a Saturday in our small town. Just excuses waiting to be made. By sunset, her smile had faded. She blew out her candles alone, whispering a wish I couldn't hear. When she went inside to play with the few neighborhood kids who did come, I stayed back, staring at the untouched plates and the extra party favors. My heart sank under the weight of disappointment. Not just for me, but for my daughter, who deserved a room full of laughter, not empty chairs. I picked up my phone and called my mother. It rang 4 times before she answered. "Oh, Clara," she said breathlessly. "We decided not to come. Your brother wasn't feeling well, and honestly, it didn't seem like a good time for a big gathering." "A good time," I repeated, my voice cracking. "Mom, it's Leela's birthday. You all promised," she sighed. "You always take things so personally. We'll make it up to her some other time." The line went dead before I could respond. That night, after Leela had fallen asleep clutching her new doll, I sat in the dim kitchen, scrolling through social media. That's when I saw it. My entire family smiling at a barbecue. The timestamp. The exact hour Leela's party began. The caption read, "Family time? Nothing like good food and laughter to end the week." My hand trembled around my phone. I didn't know whether to cry or scream. But one thing was certain. Something inside me broke that night. And when people break, they don't just fall apart. Sometimes, they rebuild sharper. A week passed after Leela's lonely birthday, but the ache didn't. Every time she looked at the unopened gift bags stacked in the corner, she'd ask softly, "Can we save them for when Grandma visits?" I didn't have the heart to tell her that Grandma wouldn't. I buried myself in work, taking extra shifts at the small diner, where I waitressed to distract myself. My coworkers tried to cheer me up, but I'd smile and change the subject. The truth was, I wasn't angry yet. I was hurt, raw and hollow in a way that only betrayal from your own blood can make you feel. Then, one night, everything changed. It was close to midnight when my phone buzzed. I wiped my flour, covered hands on a towel, and checked the notification. A message from my brother, Darren, blinked on the screen. "Darren, hey Clara, sorry we missed the party. Darren, anyway, quick thing. Mom said you might have some cash from the insurance payout after Tom's death, right?" I froze. My chest tightened. "Clara, why?" He replied almost instantly. "Darren, we're short this month. Could you send ones 7:45, just until next week? Mom said you'd understand." For a moment, I just stared at the number. Wonders 745, so precise, so casual, as if he were asking for a cup of sugar. My mind flashed back to the photo of them laughing at that barbecue, while my daughter cried over melted frosting. "Clara, you all skipped Leela's birthday. And now you're asking for money." He sent another message. "Darren, don't be dramatic. It was just a kid's party. Family helps family, remember." My stomach churned. I could practically hear his smug tone. Then my mother texted. "Mom, Darren told me you're making things difficult again. You owe this family, Clara. We've supported you for years." Oh, I almost laughed. The only support they'd ever given me was emotional manipulation dressed up as kindness. "Clara, I'm not sending a cent. You skipped your granddaughter's birthday to grill burgers and drink beer. If you need money, sell your new SUV." No response came that night. I turned off my phone, feeling both proud and terrified. Because in my family, saying no wasn't an option, it was a declaration of war. 2 days later, I found out just how far they'd go to fight back. It was a Tuesday morning when 2 police officers knocked on my door. "Mrs. Hensley?" one of them asked. "Yes," I replied, heart racing. "You're being accused of withholding funds belonging to your late husband's estate," he said. "We'll need to ask a few questions." I blinked, stunned. "What? Who?" "Your mother and brother filed the report," the other officer said carefully. "They claim you're keeping money that should have been shared among the family." I felt my knees weaken. "That's ridiculous!" It was an insurance payout, not inheritance. My husband worked for it. For us. The officers didn't arrest me. They just took my statement and left. But the humiliation, the fear of my neighbors seeing police at my door, it burned deep. That night, I cried quietly as Leela slept. My family had not only abandoned us. They were trying to destroy what little peace I had left, but somewhere between the tears, a different feeling began to rise. It wasn't sorrow anymore. It was resolve. They wanted to play dirty. Then they'd learn exactly what happens when the woman they called too soft finally fights back. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a hollow chest. The world outside looked normal. Kids biking down the street, dogs barking, sunlight streaming through the blinds. But nothing about my life felt normal anymore. My mother and brother had crossed a line. Filing a police report against me wasn't just betrayal. It was war disguised as righteousness. For a few days, I said nothing. I didn't call, didn't text, didn't even respond when they left voicemails pretending they were only doing what's fair. Instead, I watched. I learned a long time ago that silence makes people uncomfortable. It makes them talk. It makes them reveal more than they should. So I waited, listening, quietly observing. At work, I kept my head down, but when I got home, I started digging. I logged into public record sites, revisited old emails, and read through every message Darren and my mother had ever sent about family finances. That's when I found it. A string of messages between my brother and my cousin Megan that made my blood run cold. "Darren, once Clara gives us the money, Mom wants to use it for the down payment." "Megan, you're serious. That's her husband's insurance." "Darren, yeah, well, she doesn't need all that. We're family." I sat back in my chair, my pulse pounding. They weren't just greedy, they'd planned this. My mother, my brother, and even my sister-in-law had conspired to take from a grieving widow and a 7-year-old child. But karma doesn't need permission, only patience. I started keeping records. Every message, every voicemail, every social media post where they bragged about financial struggles. I printed screenshots and tucked them into a neat folder marked for later. Then, I made my next move. I visited Officer Daniels, one of the local policemen who had come to my door. He'd seemed kind, skeptical, even, about my family's claims. I brought him the folder. "These are messages between my family members," I explained. "They filed a false report against me. I want it documented." He flipped through the papers slowly, his jaw tightening. "This is pretty clear evidence of intent. I'll make sure this gets added to your file." "Thank you," I said softly. "I'm not out to destroy them. I just want the truth on record." But inside, I wasn't thinking about the truth. I was thinking about justice. That evening, I scrolled through social media again. My mother had posted another picture. This time at a local restaurant, laughing with my brother's family, plates of expensive food in front of them. The caption read, "Some people forget what family means. But we always stick together." That was the final push. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry or beg for them to apologize. I was going to let them expose themselves. And when they did, I'd be ready to strike. My revenge wouldn't come with fire or fury. It would come with calm precision. Because sometimes the loudest payback begins in perfect silence. 2 weeks passed, and the silence I'd built around myself started to work like poison. Not for me, but for them. My phone began buzzing again, this time with panicked calls from my mother. I ignored every one of them. Darren texted me 3 times, then 5, then 10. Mom's worried about you. You need to fix this. The police said they might investigate us now. What did you do, Clara? I did nothing, not a single thing. I didn't raise my voice or make a scene. All I did was tell the truth in the right places. And truth, when left alone, has a way of burning through lies like wildfire. A few days later, Officer Daniels called. Ermevers. Hensley, he said. The department reviewed your documentation. We've officially closed the complaint against you. In fact, we're opening a separate inquiry into false reporting. I thanked him politely and hung up, my hand trembling slightly. Not from fear, but from satisfaction. That evening, I took Leela to the park. She giggled as she chased butterflies, her laughter finally sounding free again. Watching her, I made a quiet promise to myself I wouldn't let anyone, not even family, dim that light again. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted them to feel seen, exposed, to know that the woman they'd underestimated had the power to turn their deceit into their downfall. So, I did something simple. I started posting, just enough to make them sweat. A photo of me and Leela smiling at the park with the caption, "Peace always follows truth." Another of Leela's birthday decorations, still hanging faintly in the background, with, "Some memories may hurt, but they remind us who never showed up." It wasn't long before my cousin Megan messaged me privately. "Clara, whatever you're doing, it's working. Your mom's losing it. People in church are asking questions. Perfect." My mother thrived on reputation. Her world revolved around being the respectable, sweet matriarch of our family. The thought of whispers spreading, of people knowing what she and Darren did, would eat her alive. And it did. 3 days later, she showed up at my house unannounced. I opened the door to see her standing there, face pale, eyes sunken with stress. "Clara," she started softly, "can we talk?" I folded my arms. "Now you want to talk. I made a mistake," she whispered, glancing nervously toward the street, as if neighbors might hear. "You know how family gets. We panic, we say things we don't mean. You filed a police report against your own daughter," I said, my voice cold and measured. "That's not panic, that's cruelty." Her lip trembled. "Please, Clara, the officers called me this morning. They said they're looking into Darren now. You have to stop this." I met her gaze. Calm, unflinching. "I didn't start this, Mom. You did." She broke down right there on my porch, sobbing like a woman who finally realized she'd lost control. I didn't comfort her. Not this time. When she left, I stood in the doorway, watching her retreat to her car. For years, I'd let her guilt and manipulation dictate my life. But that chapter had officially closed. And yet, there was still Darren. The brother who thought he could use grief as currency. My silence had cracked their unity. Now, it was time for the real unraveling. The one that would expose him for the fraud he truly was. I wasn't just going to get revenge. I was going to reclaim my peace. And make sure the world saw exactly who they were beneath their perfect smiles. The morning it all began unraveling for real, I woke up to 27 notifications. My cousin Megan had tagged me in a community Facebook post. One that was already gaining traction. The post read, "You think you know people until you find out they called the cops on their own family over money they demanded after skipping their granddaughter's birthday." The comments section was chaos. People from our old neighborhood, friends, old church members, even Darren's coworkers, were chiming in. Some defended them, but most didn't. The truth was too sharp, too specific, and too Clara. By afternoon, my phone rang again. This time, not with fear, but with a hint of victory. It was Officer Daniels. "Mrs. Hensley," he said, "we've concluded our investigation. Your brother Darren has been charged with filing a false report and attempted fraud. We found evidence he tried to use the complaint to avoid repaying a business loan. Your mother's record will show as a witness, not a defendant, but..." He paused, "but it won't be pretty for her either." For a long moment, I didn't speak. Not because I was shocked, but because I was finally free. After the call, I went outside, sat on the porch, and let the wind run through my hair. I thought about all the years I spent trying to earn their love. Buying gifts, hosting dinners, forgiving insults, apologizing for things I never did. And now, for the first time, I didn't owe them anything. That evening, Darren came storming up my driveway. His car screeched to a halt, his face red, jaw tight with rage. "You did this?" he shouted. "You ruined my reputation, Clara." I stayed seated on the porch steps, calm as still water. "No," I said quietly, "you ruined it yourself. I just stopped covering for you." He took a step closer, fists clenched. "You think this is over? I'll tell everyone you're the reason Mom's sick, that you're the reason she's finally facing the truth." I interrupted. "Sore. Go ahead." He stared at me, chest heaving. I could see the panic behind the anger now. The look of a man who realized every thread he'd pulled was wrapped around his own neck. "You could have just paid the money," he muttered finally. "And you could have just come to your niece's birthday," I said. Silence. He turned and walked away, muttering curses, but I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Because, as he drove off, I knew something he didn't. Megan had filmed the whole thing from her car parked across the street. That video hit Facebook the next day. Captioned simply, "When the guilty confront the fearless." Within hours, it had thousands of views. Darren's business page flooded with negative comments. His so-called friends quietly unfollowed him. His wife took their kids and moved out, embarrassed by the scandal. My mother stopped showing up at church. People had started asking questions she couldn't answer anymore. I didn't celebrate it. Not loudly. My revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about balance, about truth finally taking its rightful place after being buried for too long. That night, I tucked Leela into bed. She looked up at me sleepily and said, "Mommy, are we happy now?" I smiled, brushing her hair back. "We're free, baby. And freedom is the best kind of happy." As I turned off the light, I realized something powerful. Revenge doesn't always come in flames. Sometimes, it comes in silence. In peace. In finally choosing yourself over those who never chose you. Months passed. The world moved on. But they didn't. Darren's business never recovered. The fraud charges didn't land him in jail, but they shattered his reputation. Clients backed out, friends vanished, and his name, once spoken with respect, now carried a stench of deceit. My mother retreated into silence, her world shrinking to the walls of her small house. She'd stopped calling, stopped sending messages. For a while, I thought that was the end of it. But fate has a way of bringing things full circle. One afternoon, I was volunteering at a local community center, helping organize a fundraiser for single mothers. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same people my family once looked down on were now the ones surrounding me with warmth and sincerity. As I handed out flyers, I heard a voice behind me. "Clara." I turned. My mother stood there, her hands trembling around a folded envelope. She looked older, smaller somehow, as if guilt itself had been gnawing at her bones. I didn't speak. I just waited. "I wanted to apologize," she said, voice cracking. "Not because I expect forgiveness, but because I can't sleep without saying it." Her eyes glistened with tears. "You were always the strong one. I just didn't want to see it. I thought control was love. But you showed me what love really is." I took a deep breath. "Mom, I don't hate you," I said softly. "I just finally stopped letting your pain define mine." She nodded slowly, then extended the envelope. "It's for Leela, her college fund. From the house I sold. It's not forgiveness, it's a start." For the first time in years, I saw not the manipulative matriarch, but a broken woman trying to make peace with her mistakes. I took the envelope. "Thank you," I said quietly. We stood there for a moment. Not as mother and daughter locked in battle, but as two women who had finally stopped running from the truth. That night, after tucking Leela into bed, I sat by the window, watching the moonlight spill across the floor. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It was Darren. "I'm sorry too. I messed up. I lost everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. Tell Leela her uncle's proud of her." I stared at the screen for a long while. Then I typed I already forgave you. But forgiveness doesn't mean a second chance. And hit send. Weeks later, I uploaded one final post to my social page, the same one that had once ignited the storm. A picture of Leela and me at the fundraiser, smiling, surrounded by people who truly cared. The caption read, "Family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty, love, and showing up when it matters most." Within hours, it went viral. Thousands of strangers commented, sharing their own stories of betrayal, healing, and quiet revenge. I didn't need the world's validation. But knowing that my pain had turned into someone else's strength, that was the most poetic justice of all. That night, as the world slept, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not out of sadness, but release. For the first time in years, I felt peace. The ghosts of betrayal had finally been laid to rest. The woman who once trembled in silence had risen, stronger, wiser, and untouchable. And as the city lights shimmered beyond the window, I whispered into the quiet night, "You tried to break me. But all you did was build my wings."